Hello buddy, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 quick match gameplay. This time around we are playing as the Lizardmen against the forces of the Dark Elves, and for this build we are going to be squaring off with some Bastildons with solar engines against the Elven hordes, and I really want to make use of the laser lizards, try to get as much value out of them as possible. And that's kind of what this composition here is focused on. Protecting the lasers, getting them to use up their ammo, and hopefully whittling down the enemy cav and missile infantry and that sort of thing enough for the monsters and the rest of the force to win. So going with the comp here, we do have Lord Mazda. I think he's always a solid choice. We are coming in with a pretty sizable spell selection. We got, of course, the Net of Mintok, helps slow and snare my opponent. Harmonic Convergence just to help Mazda Mundi, or any of these units fight better, honestly. Even the Star Chamber Guardians for an elite infantry are not that amazing stat-wise, so it can help them. Curse of the Midnight Wind, good defensive debuff. Then Apotheosis to heal either Mazda Mundi or some of my single entities like the Star Scarvet, Bastillodon, maybe even the Temple Guard a little bit. Also, we do have the Shield of the Old Ones, a very sizable AoE buff, and helps both leadership and damage resist. Of course, Banishment just to punish Elven blobs. And unfortunately, true to form, we did forget the Sunburst Standard Hexoatl. I even deployed Mazda Mundi here next to the Bastildons, thinking I had it. And yeah, low IQ plays. That's what we come here for to this channel, so to be expected. But yeah, forgot that. Bit of a mistake there. I could have easily had it too if I just cut like the skink cohorts with javelins down to normal skink cohorts. Going over the rest of the comp, the front line here is pretty dirt cheap. We got 2 skink cohorts, 2 red-crested skinks, and then the Star Chamber Guardians serving as the anchor here in the center. Obviously, the extra 15% physical resist will help Mazda Mundi be a lot beefier. If I had the Sunburst Standard, it would give him over 40% resistance to missile pressure, which is really, really nice. Out on the flanks, we do have 2 Chameleon Skinks there to kind of harry and distract my opponent. They're very tough for Dark Elves to shut down with 48 speed. I believe they cut Cold One Knights down to 51 speed, so Cold One Knights can't really catch these guys very easily, and they're really pain in the rear if you micro them correctly. There are also 2 skink cohorts with javelins, just a bit of a reserve, and 2 Star Scarvets to provide a bit of an anti-large contingent. Obviously, they can't be on monsters' mounts because our 3 monsters are here, but they can still dish out quite the pain and really lay the smackdown on a lord like Malekith, which is what we're seeing here. Now for my opponent, he has gone with a very wide line rush. We've got a horde of Dread Spears in the front. Makes sense. These guys are good for screening out units such as Chameleon Skinks, just zoning them rather efficiently. Behind that, 4 units of Dark Shards. These guys are all the unshielded variants, so pretty cheap. I believe they cost a little more or a little less than Empire handguns, 575. So really cheap infantry here. And honestly, losing shields doesn't matter too much against Lizardmen because most of what's hitting you here in the back line is either artillery or it's monster barreling through, so shields ain't stopping that. Besides that, there are 2 Hargneth Executioners. Now, these guys are a bit of a problem because they will put my main line on a timer. I do believe they might even beat the Star Chamber Guardians. Even if they don't, though, they'll fight very cost-effectively there, and all the rest of my line will just get mulched by these guys. 2 Cold One Knights are fleshing things out with a bit of mass, providing a bit of that stopping power to prevent me from really getting through to the back line. Now, immediately we are popping shots here, blinding those Dark Shards with those holy bolts of light. You can see the Executioners are getting clipped a tiny bit. One of them does drop dead, getting vaporized into red mist. Slightly better connection there. Dark Shards are starting to leave models, and of course, these are some of the priority targets for me. In hindsight, probably should have just targeted the 2 Executioners because they are a more expensive unit, and I'm going to have to compromise this backline manually at some point anyway. But for now, we are sniping away at the Dark Shards and the Executioners, and doing quite a bit of harm there. Chameleon Skinks here do get lit up by Malekith, who wastes a breath on the skink cohort. I think this wasn't really necessary. These guys are just a joke, so who cares if they get beat up a little bit. Chameleon Skinks in the meantime poking at Malekith, who, I should have mentioned, did bring Gaze of Malice, Stand Your Ground, Soul Stealer, Doombolt, Blade Wind, and Chill Wind, which is kind of surprising. That's a lot of spells. You don't really see that very often. Over here, we're going to take Mazda Mundi and barrel right down the center. Just trying to get in on these Dark Shards and hopefully route them quickly. And my opponent is going to try to converge on him and stop him. Unfortunately, Cold One Spears here, or Cold One Knights, I should say, flanking around. Blade Wind does go down here in the back line, disrupting the poor skin cohort, damaging them quite badly. In a case of Malice here, is going to make life even worse for us. So very not ideal. But we are able to surround Malekith here with the Red Crested Skinks, and they will actually put him to Pound Town. They do quite a bit of hurt here. In the meantime, Mazda Mundi rampaging around the back, and you can see some meaty connections there from the beams of light, from the beams of Chotek there, just destroying the Dark Shards, taking down quite a bit of HP there. making them rout. Doombolt goes down the Red Crested Skinks. I think it was mistargeted and actually aimed at the Sarge Scarvets. But they are rampaging around here. Beating down on the Cold One Knights, though, right now. A bit distracted by spears. Did have them targeted on the Knights. And they are doing quite a bit of harm. We do finally drop our Shield of the Old Ones. This will help this fight swing a little bit more in our favor, though I think we're still going to lose it just because there's so many spears here. And we don't have much. We just got the Red Crested Skinks, really. But Mazda Mundi's taking a lot of pressure. Dark Shards are very much online. I haven't really managed to compromise all of them at all, or even most of them. And although the Star Chamber Guardians did push through and they got Harmonic Convergence, they're getting minced up by the Executioners, who just got Murderous Mastery, and are just going to pile drive through these poor lizards pretty easily. Lasers, though, are pounding Malekith, and you can see we do drop ourselves a nice fat Curse of the Midnight Wind here, which is going to help hold the line. Malekith being pursued by the Star Scarvets, and we do drop Banishment there, melting away some of these annoying Executioners. As the lasers continue firing, of course, this whittling down of my opponent is going to slowly add up. Unfortunately, as the Mundi does rout, despite a cold blood and all that, he's very much fleeing for dear life. And I realize I really got to keep him in line. I do need to try to prevent him from escaping. You can see the artillery continues pounding away the Dark Shards, who fortunately are not very good at hitting the Star Scarvets. On the small mounts like this, on the cold ones, they're very hard to hit. And we're actually going to do a full-blown retreat here, trying to rally and regroup around the Mazda Mundi, prevent it from getting knocked out. And my opponent does misplay here a little bit, not using the Cold Knights to pursue him from the field. In the meantime, the Bastildons with solar engines still have a decent chunk of ammo, have been chipping away, firing away at these units. And we're going to try to pull away here, using the Chameleon Skinks as a bit of a screen, and slowly whittling down these Executioners. Because, well, perhaps not the biggest threat immediately, these guys could, in the late game, provide a serious threat to someone like Mazda Mundi. He's very low on HP, even with Apotheosis there, he's pretty low. Big misplay here. Gaze of Malice wipes through the Skinks. They're just sent flying. And a really big misplay there on my part. And poor Mazda Mundi here, running away as fast as he can. As we do clean up the Cold One Knights, I really wanted that cavalry gone. Over here, the Dark Shards will help clean up the Red Crested Skinks, so that's going to be a win for my opponent on that flank. But of course, we are much faster because we have so many Skinks in the field. Though here, this is a big misplay. Letting Karganath Executioners catch Chameleon Skinks, that should never happen. But we did let it happen. And we're going to be trying to kite back here, just stall, whittling down Malekith with those Beams of Light. My opponent not having used Soul Stealer a bunch this game, or actually I don't believe it at all, is definitely hurting him here. It means Malekith's much weaker than he'd usually be. Wastes a chill wind there. And we're actually able to kind of regroup and get Mazda Mundi up to about 1,000 HP, which is quite the win. In the meantime, well, the Skinks, they're trying. They're doing their best to hold the line. The Skink Over, of course, is not going to win against Hardened Executioners, but they'll stall. That's really what matters. And in the meantime, the Chameleon Skinks can disentangle themselves, pull back. Mazda Mundi getting pounded here, but we can pull him back as well. Apotheosis, of course, will help there too. And the Laser Lizards continue pounding away, pulling those enemy formations down, and Dark Shards are bleeding, and we're able to get the Star Scarvets going here. Skinks are pursuing the Dread Spears, and with the Star Scarvets diving the backline, my opponent's going to have a hard time compromising all that. Malekith can't really fight them all at the same time, and he's actually going to focus here on the Bastildons, hitting him with a Breath Attack, doing a bit of damage. I think he should have positioned directly above, just for that maximized damage, but there's quite a bit of hurt there. We actually do get a bit of a counter charge on the Cold One Knights. We're getting the surround here. And things are going to get a bit bloody. Bastildons, of course, pretty terrible combat stats, but they do drop that poison in melee because all of them have little Skinks with the Javelins on top. And so we are actually going to be able to kind of stick around here. You can see the Bastildon definitely getting pounded, but fighting back courageously. And actually getting a little bit of support from these Chameleon Skinks who are, because of that, getting compromised by the Executioners. But the Cold One Knights here, not in a great spot, really beat up, though they are pursuing the Bastildon as best they can. This other Bastildon here still fighting. Clubbing Malekith over the head. We do drop a Shield of the Old Ones there to keep him in the fray. And Mazda Mundi running amok, doing what he does best. Star Scarvets here kind of distracted with the Dark Shards, but I really wanted to keep this missile play off the line as best I could. And Malekith is going to dive in on Mazda Mundi, which is not ideal, so we're actually going to retreat forward towards our Star Scarvets. Swing Star Scarvet here, do a bit of a switcheroo on my opponent. And net these Cold One Knights to prevent that from getting in, and now countercharge, engaging Malekith here with the Star Scarvet, with Mazda Mundi, just trying to beat him down as best we can. And of course the Star Scarvet does hit pretty hard. He does have a 400 or so. Weapon strength, and Malekith, despite the physical resist, is going to suffer there. Unfortunately, Mazda Mundi is suffering even worse. We'd use Cold Blood to just keep him in the fight, getting in on these Dark Shards, trying to pressure them as best we can. leaving cripples to later. But even those cripples are doing a lot of damage. Killing Mazda very quickly. We don't have that Sunburst standard of Axolotl, and that's hurting us a lot right now. But a handful of skinks here did infiltrate past. We do have the Sarskarvet and the Bastillodon rampaging forward, just fleeing the infantry tide, using red crested skinks there as a bit of a defense. We're actually able to force a rout here. Dark Shard's not having the best leadership. It's going to fail them here, and they will flee the field. So, big win there. My opponent kind of waffling right now, unsure what to do, unsure if he should try to save the Dark Shards or go back, mop up the skinks, mop up the Bastillodon, which actually is still in play. It wasn't chased all the way off because the Cold One Riders just attached to help try to protect and pin down Mazdamundi. And so now we are going to be doing a bit of Benny Hill action here. Not as they trying to flee my opponent trying to flee me, but we're just trying to chase out the Dark Shards while my opponent is trying to pick off the Bastillodons. And doing a good job of it, but Malekith once again giving up the fight here. And in the meantime, the Cold One Knights their route, and that's going to allow this Bastillodon to just clean a house. And the fact that Malekith can't be everywhere at once right now is a killer. Where Malekith does drop a Doom Bolt, then I'm a bit slow to dodge. And Mazdamundi does go down, so the Lord of the Lizard People does fall, but in turn the Cold One, so the Sarskarvet top of the Cold One is right there in the fight, chasing Malekith, jabbing him in the back with that spear. And although Seraphon will take back to the skies, it has put us in a pretty strong position, even though it might not look that way. A laser does connect there as he takes off. Laser Lizard here still has 2 rounds of ammo. This Laser Lizard still has a handful as well. And although my opponent is doing his best to dodge there, he is now taking Chameleon Skink fire too, whittled down quite a bit. And he can't really go after that Sarskarvet all the way out here. That guy's just in too good shape, so he's trying to pick off these Bastillodons. But yeah, it's that bounce power definitely very much in our favor. You can see the Laser Lizards there popping shots. The last few Dark Shards in the distance, but Malekith is going to be forced to commit. He takes a blast to the face as he dives in, and we're going to see Dragon on Bastillodon here, slugging it out in the jungles of Lustria. But another laser goes in. Keep in mind the blind no longer affects friendlies, so Malekith's stats are going to be quite gutted every time he gets hit by that blind effect, and he's going to fall here. He's actually going to get shattered. That's going to be a pure victory for the Lizards. So the build here kind of succeeded, kind of failed. Depends how you look at it. The Bastillodon's definitely got massive value. 1 and 2 chevrons gained is huge. I think had I gotten the Sunburst standard of Axolotl here instead of the Skinks with Javelins, it would have been a much better fight. I could have kept Mazdamundi in the frame much more easily, and he might have even survived the game. So something worth keeping in mind. Don't forget your items. But all in all, I really did like the synergy of this build. I felt like it applied a good amount of pressure to my opponent. Had he brought shades or something like that, I could have sewn them with the Skinks and with the infantry and chipped away. And we did have a bit of a stable anchor there with our Temple Guard. And the Red Crested Skinks are a pretty sturdy unit themselves, so for how cheap they are. So we managed to hold surprisingly well. For my opponent's build, I think he suffered more from lack of focus, more so than a lack of build here. I think perhaps just one Hargan Executioner instead of 2 might have been better, but spend the remaining money on another Cold One Knight perhaps. But I don't think the build here was necessarily bad. I just think that it lacked focus, and he kept chasing different units. He was chasing Mazdamundi 1 second, chasing Bastillodons another second, trying to focus out the Skink mob at one point, and it just needed to be more concentrated. And I think he might have actually scraped out the win here. But well played to Coma White. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. As usual, leave your thoughts, opinions, comments, and critiques down below. I'll do my best to respond as soon as I can. Do thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.